Get as much cash as you're allowed, get it home, and stash it.
The banking system will also be restructured, effectively destroying Cyprus's successful tax haven industry.
That adjustment will be extremely painful, and these people are only too aware of it.
It's not only the super rich who are affected. Architect Michael Orphanides has saved over $200,000 for his retirement.
And with that, we're back again. I'm Darren Howard.
I'm Robert Nisbet.
And I'm Monica Solmark.
It's so good to have you along as we talk about the solutions and problems that we have around the world and the fact that activism is winning. Remember, you're part of the winning team now. This is Radio Free Canada updating you on Cyprus.
You mean the place where they wish they had complementary economic solutions?
Wishing is not the word for it. Now check this out. This is for real.
For over a week, this has been the routine. Get as much cash as you're allowed, get it home, and stash it. At the Bedroom Bank, you are in control of your money. For quite obvious reasons, we're not saying who owns this flat or indeed where it is, but this is something that is happening in homes all over Cyprus. It's not quite hiding the money under the mattress yet, but it is an indication that people are losing faith in their banks and looking out for number one. But with a high burglary rate, this Cypriot isn't risking leaving her cash home alone.
I would definitely collect it and take it with me. I would put it in my bag, make sure my bag never leaves my side, and just take it all with me. I wouldn't leave it in the house.
For over a week, Cypriots have relied on euros rationed from cash points. Again, the reopening of the banks has been delayed. And even when they do reopen, life is going to get hard.
Unemployment is going to go up, it's going to double. That means from 14% it's going to go up to 25, even 30. 5 years ago, just to give you a measure of comparison, it was only 5%.
Many of the bank workers who had protested on the streets may well find themselves out of a job. Some will eventually return to their counters, but they simply don't know exactly what they'll face. Tom Parmenter, Sky News, Nicosia.
So once again, there are stories not being covered by major news. Bankers out of work.
Bankers out of work. Well, bank employees anyway. I'm sure the bankers are still going to get their bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and the politicians, of course.
Yes. But in Cyprus, just like in Ireland, Spain, in all over Europe.
Portugal, Italy.
They understand that the IMF is a scam and that they're getting scammed out of their cash, out of their bank accounts.
Wow.
Okay, and they're just like Canada. There's no difference.
And the thing is, this sets a precedent for any central bank to go into depositors' accounts and help themselves.
Yes, so you can forget about any security in your banking system. And of course, we've got Harper and all of the conservatives saying we need to fall in line with the international banking system.
So how is it that the guys that actually caused all of this poverty and economic crisis are not the ones paying or even giving back the money they embezzled?
Because they're holding the world economy to hostage.
That's exactly the truth. They have held us to hostage. The dissolving of the Glass-Steagall Act involving investment banking with your private savings account and taking away firewalls that used to protect us and not putting them back in place after the crash.
But there are still plenty of regulations out there, but they're not enforcing them.
And in Canada, the RCMP investigates white-collar crime, and they said, we're not going to investigate the bankers because they have regulations.
That's working out so well.
All right, okay, this is the truth. And it's shocking, but people say, well, we need to keep this system going because their nest eggs are invested in it. It's not working.
That's the problem. That is the problem.
So people need to wake up. Let's run this, too.
Oh, local coverage.
Banks in Cyprus will finally reopen tomorrow. They were closed for a week while European leaders figured out an emergency bailout for the Mediterranean nation. Cyprus avoided bankruptcy, but now the question is whether there will be a run on the banks. Tom Popick reports from Cyprus tonight.
Once again, a deal in the dead of night. EU finance ministers rescuing Cyprus from financial collapse.
I believe we have averted literally the possibility of bankruptcy.
But the €10 billion bailout comes at a high cost.
The near future will be very difficult for the country and of its people.
Many details remain secret. All bank deposits under €100,000 will be protected, killing a plan that sparked outrage. But larger accounts will be taxed. How much and exactly who, yet to be revealed.
Many people say that we should leave European Union because it was a mistake.
Foreign accounts, especially Russian offshore companies, are expected to take the biggest hit. The banking system will also be restructured, effectively destroying Cyprus's successful tax haven industry. Anger simmers. This bank firebombed. But most blame the EU, deepening a rift between Europe's wealthy north and struggling south.
This decision was in defeat of solidarity and social cohesion, which are fundamental freedoms, fundamental principles of the European Union.
Banks have been closed here now for more than a week to prevent a run on accounts. Tomorrow, some branches are expected to open, but with severe restrictions to prevent any massive withdrawals or transfers. The bigger problem, a loss of confidence. This deal sends a message to all Europeans that even bank savings, life savings, aren't safe from politicians' grasp. Robin?
All right, Tom, thanks very much.
But listen to this spin. It's not politicians' grasp. It's bankers' grasp.
Well, I mean, aren't they kind of interchangeable?
Well, no, they just work together. Okay?
Yeah.
And you have to take a look at the fact that the IMF is just made up out of nowhere. So they're bankrupting people for a fund that's made up out of nothing. There's no money backing it up. There's no currency backing it up. And all of the guys who contribute to the IMF are bankrupt. So how can you guarantee a loan when you have no money to guarantee it with?
Well, I think that's what they're worried about, why they're keeping the banks closed, because the people go, where's our cash? The banks will have to say, what cash?
That's right. And that's exactly what is occurring. Fractional reserve lending. Please watch the Four Horsemen on, talking about international banking.
Yeah.
Okay. One more clip, yes?
Sure. Another thing about the Cyprus bailout here.
Yeah, hit this one.
Agreeing to a €10 billion bailout means that people with more than €100,000 in a Cypriot bank account will have some of it taken in a levy. It's not only the super rich who are affected. Architect Michael Orphanides has saved over $200,000 for his retirement.
You don't save your money till the end of your life and then suddenly have it taken away from you. This is daylight robbery in its worst form. In its worst form. Nobody knows at this present time whether it's going to be a 40% or a 60% or a 65% haircut. This is the range that they're talking. I understand it's going to be decided in the next few days. I'm completely helpless. All these events are beyond my control, and yet we have to pay our hard-earned money to bail out the banks and the politicians here.
So, okay, so what do you take away from that?
I think that the people are the power, and we have to stop buying into the crap that the politicians and the bankers have said are the systems of our land, of our world.
But how do we face up to people who say, well, this is the way it's done, and if this fails, we fail? Because they believe
people are waking up to the BS that is.
Okay.
They're waking up to the spin about how the world really works. This is a major shift in thinking.
Yes. Okay. And you know that, your banks aren't safe. People went through this before. I remember in the 90s when we lost all of our investments. Okay. And we lost huge investments here in Canada. We had to go through big hoops and ladders for about 7 years to get our investment back again, but they didn't fix the system. So they just keep going along with what the bankers say.
They just kick the can down the road. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
That's right. But that is when you're a conservative baby boomer in charge. That's what the scorched earth policy you're leaving the next generation.
Yeah.
Children. Sorry. I mean, it's immaturity. I mean, honestly.
It is.
You have
very
to
short-sighted.
These bankers got to be responsible, but they have to understand it's all made up from nowhere, and you're causing poverty for no other reason than greed.
And huge hardship on the people as well.
Okay, but they're doing it. They're standing up against it. You got time? Want to run this?
Sure.
Okay, let's run this.
We want jobs, and Troika get out of Europe, they shouted. Outside the Parliament, high school students came to show their anger at the EU bailout deal. These students are the future workforce of this island economy. They now fear that future has been wiped out.
Everyone's to blame for me, and they need to get up and they need to go to jail. The people that are to blame, we want them to go to jail because of our future. We have our lost future.
Outside the Bank of Cyprus headquarters, another sign of the times. Workers gathered outside, fearing their jobs are now on the line. The bank chairman sparked their panic by resigning on Tuesday, apparently in protest at plans for restructuring and the losses being threatened on his bank's larger depositors. The EU's bailout deal for Cyprus requires a massive restructuring of the economy, away from decades of reliance on banking and financial services, all the things that used to drive the economic growth of this island and provide thousands of jobs. That adjustment will be extremely painful, and these people are only too aware of it.
Where is the growth going to come from? The growth will come from the brains, the young Cypriot brains. We have plenty of those. Cyprus actually has the largest number of very well-educated youth.
In the immediate term, the day-to-day struggle continues. The banks are still shut, day 11. The limits on how much cash you can withdraw, if any at all, are still in place. And in downtown Nicosia, this well-known store hasn't had a single customer all day. Elsewhere, there are reminders of recession and hard times. The banks are due to reopen on Thursday, although no one really knows. With or without limits and capital controls, again, no one really knows. The uncertainty that has frozen economic life here looks set to continue for a long time.
Yeah, well, this could cause the unraveling of the whole European economic zone.
That's right. And, a lot of people, theorists out there, say they're doing this on purpose. We know they are. They're creating poverty on purpose. What was the other clip that you were talking about?
The ships with goods are sitting in docks because
Cyprus.
they can't be paid for.
Yes.
Because the banks are closed.
Yeah, the banks are closed, so they've got food waiting on the docks.
Oh, wow.
And that's how fascist things are. Okay, the banks are causing people to starve, all for money they make up out of nowhere.
What I want to know is how can being a tax haven be an industry?
That's a good question.
Good question. How is that an industry? I don't know. I'm wrapping my head around it. I'm glad that we've got Radio Free Canada because we're talking about solutions. Please see the solutions in the previous segment. Yes.
Yes, and don't mention haircuts around here.
Yes, but remember, Panda.
Panda.
We're the Panda Anonymous Group, and I am Darren Howard.
I am Robert Nisbet.
And I'm Monica Solmark.
Panda free until we want to get Major News' attention, and then we're going to get that fuzzy butt out here. Ooh. Stay tuned, more coming up.
1971, when President Nixon took the United States off what was left of the gold standard, the world has operated under a system of money called fiat. The dollar, the pound, the euro are all government fiat currencies. Fiat is a Latin word meaning let it be so. It is the law that this government currency be money. Indeed, without that legal enforcement, and the fact that we must pay taxes in this money, that dollar bill or that computer digit that represents a dollar would be pretty much meaningless. Only the government has the power to issue fiat money, but banks can create it through lending. If somebody wants to borrow $10, a bank can create it from nowhere and lend it. It can then charge interest. Banks also create money by lending against an asset, such as a house. They're given the deeds to the house, and they create the money out of nowhere and lend it, at interest, of course. But who benefits? Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks. They haven't had to do anything productive, they just create money. However money is created, be it through lending, fractional reserve banking, financial bailouts, or old-fashioned money printing, banks are always at or near the top of the money-issuing pyramid. In reality, This process of creating money only redistributes wealth from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. And thus that ever-increasing gulf between rich and poor gets bigger and bigger and bigger.